Holy Jesus. It is so hot in Sydney. It's only 24 degrees and it feels like it's about 34. So I'm apologising now for the sweat stash, which will inevitably appear on my top lip, and the litres of water I'm probably going to be drinking, but I could not miss this Warrior Wednesday video because today is the Q&A that I've been promising for the last couple of weeks. I did the Christmas survival guide for eating disorder recovery last week because I had so many questions about that, so go and check that out if you haven't seen it. Thank you for all the messages about that video. I am so thrilled that it helped as many of you as it did, even people who haven't gone through eating disorders. I'm so happy that it helped anyone in any way at all. So if you haven't seen that, link in the description box below. So the first question is on Tumblr from Anonymous, and it is, hey Mia, you mentioned in your last video that you've been single for a while. Does that have anything to do with your recovery? Sorry if this is super duper personal, it's just that I've been single for a long time and I think it probably has something to do with my recovery. Sending you love. Thank you, Anon. Yes, I'm totally open about this. I have been single for probably almost 7 years now. I've definitely dated people for like periods of time, months at a time in that period, but nothing that I would consider a serious long-term relationship. And it absolutely has something to do with my eating disorder because I was very isolated, particularly towards the end of my eating disorder, because I didn't want anybody to basically come between me and my coping mechanism, because if anybody got close enough, they'd be able to see what I was doing to myself and maybe pull me up on the behavior. I was also very ashamed. I didn't want anybody exposed to the gross habits that I had. So I really kept people at a distance, sabotaged a lot of relationships to keep people away. And in recovery, I sort of do the same thing, but for different reasons, I think. I think I'm so in the habit now of being on my own that the idea of being with someone, to be perfectly honest, does scare me quite a bit. And also have dated some people when I was sick who didn't treat me terribly well, and dated a guy when I first went into recovery who ghosted on me after we dated for 3 months, and that left a really bad impression because that really messed with my early days in recovery quite a bit. On the upside, I'm kind of grateful for it because I was a very lost person for the 6 years that I was sick. I didn't know who I was, I didn't have a sense of identity, I didn't have a sense of self. And now that I've been well for 3 years, I feel like I have built up my character and my strength and resilience, and I've found who I am and who I want to be, and I'm very certain in that and my sense of independence. So yeah, I have no doubt that there's somebody out there in the future and they'll come along when they're supposed to. Another one from Anonymous, what's the biggest or best thing you've learned in recovery? Oh God, that's really hard. The best thing I've learned in recovery is probably what I think that we should instill in people when they're young. I feel like we should be raised to feel confident and to be independent and to love ourselves and take care of ourselves. And it's like I've had to learn how to walk again. There are some people who grow up and just know how to be like that, but I take great pride in the fact that I take very good care of myself, and I learned how to do that. Next one is from Anon as well. Do you regret or feel guilty about all the years you were sick? I get so angry with myself for all the time I wasted and wish I could get it back somehow. I've talked about this before in my eating disorder shame video. I'll link that in the description box below as well. I think we all have regrets. I think we all go through times when we're so frustrated with ourselves that we, wasted those years or whatever it might be, but the reality is you can't get that time back. You have to forgive yourself for it, because another day regretting or looking back or feeling guilty is another day wasted. That's part of self-care as well, is forgiving yourself and acknowledging it happened. It happened for a reason. You did the best that you could with what you had, and now it's time to put that behind you and move forward. The best quote I've ever heard about forgiveness that I still use today is, forgiveness is accepting that it couldn't have been any different. You did what you could with what you had to survive, to get through it. From Nataska or Natasha, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name, I'm Australian, we butcher names all the time. With constant purging, did you ever lose your voice, or did purging when you had a cold make you lose your voice? I always had a very gravelly voice because of it, and I think it was a lot to do with that strain that you put on your vocal cords when you're purging. So yes, it was definitely part of my binging and purging. So from Olivia, How do you deal with jumping from behavior to behavior, like compulsive exercising, restricting? It feels like I conquer one behavior and jump onto the next. I think that's pretty common. I have done the same thing through recovery. Even up until probably a year ago, I was going through a very, very tough time. I lost my job just after my birthday. I found myself drinking a bit more than I probably should have been. I mean, I wasn't drinking every day. I wasn't drinking the second I woke up, but for myself, I know that I was using it as a coping skill because I didn't have my eating disorder and I wasn't acknowledging what the root of the problem was. So if you find that you're jumping from behavior to behavior, that would tell me that there's an underlying issue that hasn't been resolved. It's not the eating disorder that's the problem, it's what underpins the eating disorder that's the problem. And in my opinion, the only way to go and resolve that is to go and get third-party help from a psychologist or from a counselor. How do you listen to your body in terms of knowing when you are hungry or full? I don't know what my body cues are as I've ignored them for so long. Any tips or advice would be great. This takes a while. It's like when I talk about intuitive eating and people say to me, I've been trying it for like 3 or 4 months and it's not kicking in yet. It takes a long time to recognize when you're full, to recognize your hunger cues, to recognize what you're craving, to recognize when it's satiated, and then it starts to level out after a period of time. For me, probably it took between 9 to 12 months before I really felt like, okay, like I'm getting this now. I can have that bit of chocolate and like that's all I actually wanted. Or I'm really craving like steamed broccolini and soy sauce and some fish. Like that's all I want in the world. You could put a Mars bar in front of me and I'd be like, get that out of my face. Bring me some fish and some steamed broccolini with soy sauce. It's about practice and it's about being really, really conscious and aware. That sort of mindful eating that they talk about. It's not going to work the first time or the second time. You're going to go through some awkward stages of overeating where you feel overly full or bloated, or you don't eat when your body is sending you a hunger cue. It's just a matter of time. I would suggest keeping a food journal and not tracking the food or calories, God no, but keeping track of your feelings around food, pre-eating, post-eating, when you're hungry, the times of day that you're hungry, how you felt after you ate a certain amount of food or a certain type of food, and maybe try to see a pattern emerging that way. From Joelle, how do you feel about getting into a relationship with someone romantically who is struggling with an eating disorder whilst you are already recovered? Do you think that could work out, or is it too much of a risk in terms of triggers? I think I may have taken myself out of this advice round saying that I've been single for so long. In my opinion, it's maybe a bit of a double-edged sword. You could be really helpful to this person, you could be a great influence on this person, but then you've really, I guess, got to be very, very aware of the fact that being around somebody with an eating disorder could be quite triggering. I would just be very honest with yourself about how strong you are in your recovery, about whether or not that could test your recovery, and take it from there. My God, if you have really intense feelings for this person, if you think you could love this person, have a great life with this person, I am in no way going to say don't pursue that. But as always, just be very, very mindful of where you are, and if your feelings start to go down an unhealthy path, or your thoughts start to, or you see some bad habits emerging, just to be really, really cognizant of how maybe this relationship is impacting. But if you've fallen for someone and you can see a happy life with them, I just say go for it. Absolutely go for it. The next question is from Malia, and she says, I've recently gone back into recovery and I'm pushing myself very hard. I know my goal is to stop this behavior ultimately. However, in the meantime, how do I stop the guilt and control that side without failing again? It's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? If you put so much pressure on yourself and you try to recover perfectly and with no pitfalls and no mistakes, then you're probably going to fail, which is ironic because that's your biggest fear. You've got to go easy on yourself. That's so much of what recovery is about. Yes, of course, you've got to be fairly disciplined in your behavior and your thought patterns, etc. But so much of recovery is about self-care and being nice to yourself, because that's what the eating disorder isn't doing. So the only way you can combat that ugly, horrible, offensive, insulting voice in your head is to take the opposite attitude and be caring and loving. And if that means that you dial back the pressure a bit, you're probably in a better position to overcome it than if you're sort of aligning your hair voice with your eating disorder voice, if you get what I mean. And now it's just about really taking control of how you're speaking to yourself and identifying what that pressure is about. Is that your eating disorder putting pressure on you so it can guarantee you're going to fail so that it can stick around? It can sort of mask itself in that way sometimes as well. So bit of self-evaluation and just take it easy. Thoughts about body checking, tips on how to stop from every shape, every size. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, that's your username. Do I still body check? Yes. Do I do it all the time? No. Do I go through periods where I body check? Yes. Has it gotten better over the last 3 years? Yes. Do I think that people without eating disorders body check? 100%. That's why nobody lets you go through the photos on their phone, because they look like a narcissistic wanker. Body checking is another one where I think that you instinctively know when it's a problem. I know that it's not so much a problem for me because it's nothing like it was when I was sick. Body checking was basically a way to give me permission to be able to leave my house or go to a party or go on a date or go up to the coffee shop and get a coffee or go out and get the mail out of my mailbox, which was about 10 meters from my front door. And if my eating disorder didn't like what I saw in the mirror and in the photos on my phone, I was literally not allowed to leave the house. I think if it starts to get to a point where it's a bit obsessive, where it's compulsive, where it's tied to how you feel about yourself that day or how you feel about going somewhere or doing something, if it's impeding how you feel, if it's affecting how you feel about yourself, then I would be concerned. So the next one is from Rachel on Instagram. So she used to suffer from bulimia, has gained weight, she wants to lose weight to be healthy. She's been in a relapsing cycle and only recently broken out of that. I've barely been practicing intuitive eating for a week. I'm just worried about losing weight in a healthy way that satisfies me. I'm so used to diets being unsatisfying and over-exercising that I'm not sure how to go about it, given my extremely unhealthy background. In the meantime, my mum is pressuring me to lose weight with her. I don't know what to do. I really want to lose weight, but for me and my own health, can you give any recommendations as to healthy weight loss? Rachel, this is a two-parter for me. The first part that I want to talk about is you losing weight with your mum. I would really, in my opinion, encourage you to not ever go on a weight loss or dieting or anything program with someone. That is red flag city to me. Simply because after going through an eating disorder, losing weight should not be a goal. Getting fit, getting healthy, and truly getting fit and getting healthy or trying to achieve something physically that isn't purely just about weight loss is probably still even a dicey area. I've spoken about this in my fitness video about the fact that I have to be so aware of every decision that I make, every impulse that I have to exercise or what I'm eating. It's a constant daily touching base with myself, and weight loss is never the goal. So if you're talking about weight loss, that is concerning to me, and especially doing it with somebody, it's just, I don't know, I'd steer clear of that, to be perfectly honest. I've had other questions. I actually had a question on Twitter which was asking me when I was ready to start dieting again when I went into recovery. I will never diet. Dieting is not a normal state of being. Dieting is completely in the opposition to what our bodies were built to do. If most people knew the statistic that I'm about to share with you, they probably would never diet again. And that is that 95% of people who diet for weight loss purposes regain the weight within 1 to 2 years. So that's 95% failure rate for all diets. How everybody is not told that statistic? How is this not something that is forced to be advertised along with all of the ridiculous bikini body bullshit, Dukan diet, Atkins crap that we're fed constantly for this $61 billion a year diet industry, that 95% of people fail on them. I don't believe in dieting. I don't believe in dieting for a regular person who isn't prone to disordered eating or eating disorders, but I absolutely could never encourage anyone who's had any experience with eating disorders to diet. I had a question again, Instagram message from faithsy.silver. It's a long one, so I'm just gonna basically give you a synopsis. They have been basically approached by their family to say, we want to start CrossFit and your body's looking a little bit, I think the term was fluffy, and basically pressuring them into starting like family exercise together. This subscriber has asked, is it bad that I feel uncomfortable when talking about exercise and dieting and proportion sizes and losing weight? No, it's not bad. It's very good. It means that you are aware, which is half the battle. I was 3 years into an eating disorder and just convinced myself that I was doing what everyone else was doing. So it's very, very good. Regardless of your family pressure, regardless of, and I'm so sorry that they're making comments about your appearance. They shouldn't be. I had that as well when I was a kid. It sucks. There is no excuse for it, but I'm very sorry that they've said that. They shouldn't, but you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. If you think that that's a dicey area for you, stay away from it. That's your intuition. The reason you're writing to me to say that you feel uncomfortable, I don't need to validate that you feel uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable. That's enough. There is no further requirement from anyone to validate that. You feel uncomfortable, you don't want to do it, don't do it. I also had a question from Joelle asking if I would ever come to Amsterdam and if I would ever meet a subscriber in real life if we hadn't met before. I would totally meet a subscriber if I was in their part of the world and we hadn't met before. I don't even know if I have a lot of subscribers in Sydney. I have no idea. But I'm not coming to Amsterdam anytime soon, I'm sorry to say. If I were, I would be thrilled to meet you, Joelle. I'm not planning to go to Europe for some time. I'm going to America next year and that's the only trip that I have planned at the moment. I hope that if you didn't hear your name or your username, that you heard the answer in one of the responses to the other questions. There are a few double ups on dieting and intuitive eating and hunger cues and that sort of thing. So guys, that's it for the Q&A for Warrior Wednesday this week. I hope that it was helpful. Let me know if it was in the comments below. Keep sending me your questions and I'll save them up and probably do another one of these in a couple of months' time. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll be back hopefully this weekend. It's my birthday in exactly a week's time on the 14th of December. So my mum's up this weekend for a birthday dinner. And yeah, it's just a crazy time of year, so I'm going to do my very best to do a video this weekend, but I will definitely be back for Warrior Wednesday next week to celebrate a little bit of my birthday with you all. You're going to find me on Instagram and Twitter under What Mia Did Next if you haven't already. That would be a beautiful birthday present if you guys came and followed me there. In the meantime, as always, much love and take care. Bye guys.